Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of On the Mark. I'm your host, Mark Brantley, and it's Straight Talk Across the Narrows. As always, on Wednesdays, we're here from 8 to 10 p.m. It's a beautiful night in Nevis tonight, and I want to say a special good evening to all of our friends and family in the United States, in Canada, in the United Kingdom, all across the Caribbean, wherever you may be, those in Nevis, those in St. Kitts, good evening to you. Welcome to another edition. We hope to have a good show tonight. We should have had some guests here from Social Security. Regrettably, we had some miscommunication, but I've asked them to call at about 8:15, and I believe they have some very good information to impart. I'm always partial to Social Security because they do an excellent job here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, providing the necessary safety nets for our people. And so I look forward to that call at 8:15 on 869-469-1616 or 869-469-1700. While I'm on the air, let me say happy birthday to my dear friend Hilly. Hilly, are you hearing me? Happy birthday to you, my dear. I know it's late, but I wanted to say it publicly and on radio so that everybody knows that you're celebrating. You're such a beautiful person. I want to wish you publicly from all of us here at Von Radio, and certainly from myself and all of us on the Mark, a happy birthday. Belated as it is, I still want you to accept our greetings on your birthday and wish you God's continued grace and mercy and many, many more birthdays. I just want to say a special evening to those who might be at the hospital at this time. I know I had good friends there, people like Fish, Burke, and others who were having some difficulty. I just want to say good evening to them and all of those who may be listening, and wish them a speedy recovery. Ladies and gentlemen, we are having some mixed news. The Prime Minister has announced that October is the date scheduled for the reopening of borders. We're trying to get our house in order. We had an excellent meeting today with our Ministry of Education officials here in Nevis. I want to commend the Junior Minister Troy Liburd. I want to commend the PS, Mr. Barrett, and of course the PO, Ms. Claxton, for the really excellent job that they and the entire team have been doing. This COVID-19 has really put us in a bind, and so we're having to respond in a sectoral way, and so we'll continue to do that. And last time I was here, I announced the very, very good news that the CCM, after 30 plus long years, finally has a youth arm. And tonight I'm pleased to say that the CCM, the party that I'm privileged to lead at this point in time, just this evening constituted its women's arm. And the president of that women's arm is Latoya Jones, president, Evan Glasgow, vice president, Jessica Scarborough, secretary, Sonia Williams, treasurer, Leonora Didier, assistant secretary treasurer, and the PRO is Tessa Manners. Leonora Dida, I'm sorry, forgive me, it was spelled wrongly. So let me just say that again. Latoya Jones, president, Evan Glasgow, vice president, Jessica Scarborough, secretary, Sonia Williams, treasurer, Leonora Dida, assistant secretary treasurer, and PRO is Tessa Manners. I want to congratulate the women's arm, and I feel so proud, ladies and gentlemen, because say what you will, what this demonstrates with a youth arm and our women's arm. I'm told that nearly 80 or so persons assembled for the youth arm elections, where of course Mr. Jordan Atherton emerged as the president. We have now Miss Latoya Jones, a young woman, emerging as the president of the women's arm from the elections this afternoon. And I am told they had a good turnout as well. I don't have the number. The last occasion I was told they had over 40 women there. I don't know what the number was this evening. But I am just so pleased, because it now means that the Concerned Citizens Movement, after all these years, the Concerned Citizens Movement now has a youth arm, it now has a women's arm, it now has a constitution properly put together, it now has its executive properly constituted, and we're going into our caucus and our convention very shortly, and we will be hearing more about that. And so the party is reorganizing itself. It's getting stronger. It's reorganizing in a way that is consistent with political parties around the world. And it is an exciting time to be a part of the Concerned Citizens Movement. And so I continue to encourage all of you out there who are interested in a party that puts people first, where we say people matter most. If you want to keep that momentum that we've been talking about, then there's really only one choice, and that is the Concerned Citizens Movement. We are, by test, the most successful political party in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and perhaps one of the most successful in the entire region. We have seen others come up. Some last for a little while, some don't last at all. But the Concerned Citizens Movement, since its inception, has really performed admirably. And when we thought that we had seen the best of CCM, we are recognizing that the best is yet to come. And when I look at these young people and I look at these women and I see the excitement, and as I like to say, the vim, vigor and vitality, I am pleased beyond measure, because it tells me that the party is in excellent hands and that the future is blindingly bright. And so certainly I feel very proud about that. I want to congratulate again the president of the Women's Arm, Latoya Jones, and the president of the Youth Arm, Jordan Arthurton. They have worked hard. They are now ready to roll up their sleeves and work harder, not for themselves, but for the party and for the people of this beautiful island of Nevis. And more people are coming forward. More and more people are stepping out of that comfort zone. More and more people are saying that this old talk of politics is not for me. They're done with that. They want to get involved because they see the positivity that the party brings. They see what we are seeking to do. I'm not saying we always get it right, but perhaps part of the leadership that we have brought is that we are prepared to say when we get it wrong. We are not prepared to say that we have all the answers. We are prepared to listen. We are prepared to learn. We are prepared to do the things with the necessary humility, the necessary respect for each other. That ultimately is the hallmark of great leadership and a great party. And I am proud. I feel good, I feel good. Because I took over this party in 2017. And just, I think, October thereabouts, and then we had the election. We won 4 out of 5 seats. Only the second time in the history of the party we were able to achieve that. And then, in the federal election just concluded, the party created history. And with the help of the people of Nevis, we won all of the federal seats on Nevis, and we did so in spectacular fashion. I mean, up in St. John's, when I realized that my margin was 538 votes. When I realized that Alexis Jeffers would have won number 11 for the very first time in the history of the party, we would have won number 11. And then we realized, of course, Eric Evelyn, the mayor of Hanley's Road, would have taken St. George's number 10 in such style that it was a rout. I think I saw a report that has been produced by the supervisor of elections, and our percentage of the popular vote was over 62%. That is extraordinary. Extraordinary. And it tells us that the party has the confidence of the people of Nevis. And now we have seen the youth galvanized and stepping forward. We have seen the women galvanized and stepping forward. And we're seeing more and more people gravitating towards the Concerned Citizens Movement. It is far and away that big blue team that people prefer. And so I feel very proud. I think we've had good electoral success, and success after success says to us that the people who ultimately are the judge, jury, and executioner, they have seen in us something. And so sometimes the criticisms come, they're harsh, they're fierce. Sometimes the undermining come from high and low places. Sometimes they try all kinds of things. But at the end of the day, the strength of any politician and the strength of any political party is in its appeal to the people. And the people have said consistently that they prefer the Concerned Citizens Movement. So in 2007, I take my own self as an example. I came on the scene. Then I had no gray hair. I was a young man. But the people voted for me in a by-election in 2007. I won by 30 votes. By 2010, they had expanded that in a federal election to 148 votes in circumstances where the NRP was then in office and had the power of incumbency with them. 2011, we had the fox in the Cox box, that nasty black fox that was over there, and that stole that election. And then we switched gears, went to court, and by 2013, we were in the driver's seat again. Won by 240. We got into government. Vance Amri became the premier then, and we served for 5 years. Eventually, I took over as leader in 2017, but before we got to 2017, in 2015, we went back to the polls. Federal elections, won again, this time by 350. And then 2017, we went back to the polls, local election, won again, I think by 340 or thereabouts. 2020, we go back federal again, won again, 538. You see, we're moving in the right direction. Each election reinforces the choice of the people. And once elections are free and fair and free from fear, it tells us that the people are speaking eloquently to the party that they prefer and the candidates that they prefer. So I don't care who got what to say. Because when the rubber meets the road, it has been Mark Brantley in St. John's and in number 9, St. John's and St. Paul's. When the rubber meets the road, it has been Eric Evelyn in number 10, both local and federal. When the rubber meets the road, it's been Alexis Jefferson St. James, and now Alexis Jefferson St. James and St. Thomas's. When the rubber met the road, it was Spencer Brand in the great parish of St. Paul's in the local elections. And I am telling you that when the rubber meets the road, it will be CCM in St. Thomas's as well. All 5 is what we are aiming for. And it could be any time. The beauty of our system is that the election can come at any time. They say no man knoweth the day nor the hour. And that is indeed the case. It is for us to ensure that we are ready, that we prepare ourselves, and that we get the necessary infrastructure in place. Because a call can come at any time. The bell can ring at any time. The trumpet can sound at any time. And I am saying whenever it sounds, the saints will go marching in. The saints will go marching in because the people of Nevis know, because they've seen a party in government that cares. A party untainted by scandal. You ever see Mark Brantley's name in any scandal? You have tried, but it hasn't worked. Do you ever see Alexis Jefferson's name in any scandal? Oh, don't bother talk about Eric Evelyn. He's like a deacon. You ever see Eric Evelyn's name in any scandal? What they could say about Eric except he like to dance? Not a thing else they could say about the man. You ever hear Spencer Brand name called in anything? Lord Spencer to conduct the choir in church. When I grow up, I want to be like him. So what are they going to say? Hebrew boys, and now Hebrew girls as well, who have the necessary bearing, the necessary attitude, the necessary approach, who are clothed with the necessary integrity to lead. And people say it. People know it. So you hear all the rah, 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 rah all around. You see all the efforts to undermine. You see all the efforts to try to denigrate and try to belittle and all of that. At the end of the day, it matters not. You know why? Because the people of Nevis know who they want, and they are wise beyond measure. I always tell them, the people of Nevis are some of the wisest people. They will listen to you now. They will even sometimes engage you with foolishness. But when it comes time for them to make that mark, they're making it for the party that they have the most confidence in. And they have demonstrated in the last 33 years that except for one election, 2006, that their party of choice has been the Big Blue Machine, the Concerned Citizens Movement. Lord, sometimes I go to St. and the people even in St. are saying to me, man, CCM can't come over here. They want to wear some blue over there too. And I said, no man, you know, we're taking it easy. We're dealing with Nevis now. If you want to move Nevis and live in Nevis, then you can come and then you can join CCM. But don't ask us to bring no candidate to East Bastille and West Bastille and Cairn and Tabernacle and those places. No. We'll leave that to our colleagues and friends on the island of St. Kitts. But people are asking because people see something very special in this party called the CCM. And that is why I'm so proud that you have now the women's arm emerging today. So if I sound excited, it's because I am. I believe we are creating history in a significant way. Let me pause there because we're going to have a lot more, I'm sure, to say tonight. But it's 1/4 past the hour, and the people from Social Security should have been called at 1/4 past the hour. The phones are not going to be open for anybody else at this point, but Social Security should be calling at 815-869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. Those are the numbers. So Social Security, it's your time. You better use it because you couldn't be here. We had our communications crossed, but we're hopeful that you would call as agreed at 8:15 and be on the show and take the time to explain to the people about this very important symposium that you are having. In the meantime, we continue the conversation, or as I like to call it, my soliloquy, and just to say that I'm in a good mood. I'm in an up mood and in brilliant mood, and I feel that things are looking good despite the challenges. I'm very, very proud, and I keep saying how proud I am of the team that has been working with Nevis, the team that has been working so well with Nevis, Dr. Judy Nisbet and her COVID-19 task force, all the volunteers at the EOC there at Long Point, Brian Dyer, the entire team, Shalisa Martin, Hazel Brandy Williams, the junior minister, everybody has been contributing. I mean, let me even shout out my good friend Lisa Brown and Malva Rollins, because they say they're the cooks, chief cooks, volunteering. And I promised to go over there one time and teach them how to cook, but they declined that very generous offer that I made. But they are the kind of people who have kept us safe. Nevlek, the good people at Solid Waste, Andrew and his team, Rudy. I mean, these are the people, we must etch their names in the annals of Nevis's history because they have kept us safe. They're not in any spotlight. Many of them work quietly behind the scenes, but they worked hard and they have kept us safe. And I would want to pay homage to them. I would want to say to them how proud I am of them. Wherever they are, they take a bow. Nevis has not had any COVID cases since the 7th of April 2020. So when you add May, June, July, August, we've gone over 4 months without a positive case. Now let me be clear, cases may come. Indeed, we expect new cases are going to come. But thus far, they've done a marvelous job. And no other island anywhere in the globe has the record that the island of Nevis has. To God be the glory, and let us continue to recognize those who have worked so hard. I see a lady here waving frantically at me. It means that the Social Security people are on. Let me go to the phone and say, good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Rampling.
How are you? You're 5 minutes late.
I apologize.
Oh, you see, you should have said the lines were tied up.
No, I wouldn't lie to you.
All right, how are you?
What happened though, I am fine. I got the message from your secretary late. She was trying to call me and I was otherwise engaged. So, but as soon as I got the message, I tried to reach out to you, but on the fact that you don't have any commercial break and you're just running straight, it puts me in an awkward position.
Well, it's not awkward because you're on, and the important point is for you to get the information out. So as much as I would have loved to have seen you, you're on the air, everybody's listening to you. If you can introduce yourself and tell us what you have to say, I would appreciate that very much.
Okay, well, good evening again. My name is Karen Claxton-Amley. I am the Social Security representative for Nevis. My purpose here today is this evening, is basically sensitize the general public about an upcoming self-employed symposium that Social Security is planning. Mr. Banty, you would recognize that with the COVID-19 pandemic, it put us, well, the entire world, in a unique position where we were forced to be creative and do things outside the norm. So what we had, though, is after we would have done some conversations with the self-employed persons who were affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Some of the issues that they raised, Social Security would have taken them on the advisement, and we are having a symposium just to give them an opportunity to express their concerns to Social Security. And we've put together 4 panelists who we think that would be in a position to answer some of the questions that they would have posed. I want to quickly tell you what we would have done. In listening to some of the self-employed persons, you would often hear the cry that it's very difficult for self-employed persons to survive. There's no help. Big businesses always seem to get the assistance. So what we did is that we sought the wise counsel of the persons at CEDU, and we were very, very surprised to find out about the services that CEDO offer. And so what we thought that it would be good as if those self-employed persons could hear from the CEDO representative what they have in place, and so they could now be guided accordingly. In terms if you needed any assistance with preparation of your wage record, CEDO does that. They do counseling, they teach you how to prepare bids and contracts and so on. I myself was amazed at the services that they offer. Another panelist that we have in place is Mr. Rollison Isaac. I mean, he needs no introduction. The general public, Nevis, should know Mr. Rollison Isaac. And he has a very unique concept that he has dubbed 7 years of famine, 7 years of plentifulness. That's what he said, plentifulness. But I understand what he meant though. And I'm hoping that when he gets a chance to speak to the general public or to the self-employed person who would be in attendance, that they'll understand the importance of saving for a rainy day, especially when you have plenty. And so we're hoping that that discussion too would be very meaningful. We also have Mr. Quincy Prentice,
Yes.
who would be able to tell you how to market your business using the digital world, social media. Oftentimes we find that persons think that social media is just for little session, little melee and so on, but you can use social media to reach the entire world. And I've listened to Quincy. He's an excellent presenter, so I'm hoping that they would take some of what he would say under advisement and implement it into their day-to-day business activities. And then we're going to bring the curtain down with Mr. Peter Adrian. He's an economist from Thinkit.
You have an all-star team, man.
I know.
Yeah.
Imagine you're going to be there to give the opening remarks, so then you top it all up.
Yes.
And then when we finish, we're going to have something called speed networking. You know, there's something called speed dating, but we're going to do speed networking, where the panelists would exchange numbers with the self-employed persons so they could have an idea of, you know, if I want to have a discussion with Mr. Rollison Isaac after, then here's where he can be reached, and then we can exchange ideas and information among ourselves as self-employed persons. Then we'll have a forum, like a discussions where you could ask the panelists and you could have some discussions among yourselves. And so that is what we have planned for Wednesday.
And it's just a one day?
It's just a one day, yes.
Is there cost attached or is it free?
No, there's no cost. With Social Security, we are mindful. And so we said there's no registration cost. We're inviting you to come to get as much information as possible. Today, though, Mr. Brantley, we would have had 35 persons already.
Wow.
So
and how many can you accommodate?
We were actually trying to accommodate. We're going to accommodate 20 because we were taking into consideration the social distancing and physical distancing protocol, but we would have had some discussions with the persons at disaster or who are in charge of the committee. So we can successfully seat 35 without breaking any of the protocols. What staff at Social Security would have done too is that staff wouldn't be coming. So minus the staff, a great number of staff, minus the staff, we can accommodate 40 persons. So that's our numbers that we're looking at.
Okay, I mean, and so just a rundown again for those who might have just tuned in. I don't mean to keep you overly, but to tell us what the objective is of the symposium.
The objective is just to provide assistance to persons. And normally when persons hear about assistance and they think of Social Security, they think of money, monetary assistance.
Yes.
But then yet still we understand the importance of giving you education, giving you information so that you can make informed choices. And we're hoping that at the end of this symposium, persons would be better positioned to think a little more outside the box where their business is concerned. Mr. Bantley, I wanted to add quickly that based on the COVID-19 pandemic, we recognize that we can no longer do things as normal. We have to do things differently. And I'm hoping that the self-employed persons who would have benefited from the stimulus package from Social Security would recognize that Social Security is all about looking out for your benefits and doing the next best thing to ensure that, as you mentioned, the safety nets that persons should have are in place. So this is another safety net where it is not monetary contribution, but is information that we think would be useful.
Okay, so you are providing assistance with information.
Yes,
Not so much on this occasion a check. You've been cutting a lot of checks during COVID.
Mr. Bantley, we've been getting so many checks for the past couple of months.
Yes.
And one thing I wanted to say quickly though is that I hope after this, I don't think that COVID would go away from Nevis right now, or the Federation, or the entire world. But I'm hoping though that the kind of fever that we saw, with person calling to inquire about their payments, is the same type of fever we will see continuing when they need to check up to make sure that their employers are paying Social Security for them. Because you would find that if this was done, some of the unnecessary delay that we experienced would not have happened.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Do you have any parting words? It is almost 8:30.
No parting words. I'm just wishing everybody a wonderful evening.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that they'll come and they'll have meaningful discussion. I know sometimes when we are having forums of this nature, persons are afraid to talk because they figure, somebody might say, what she said, or what he said that for. But we're hoping that we could have courageous dialogue. At the end of the day, whatever information you impart to Social Security or you impart within the group itself, it would redound to the benefit of not only Social Security but to you as well. So I'm just hoping that persons will come on up and participate overwhelmingly.
Okay, so just give us the date again and the location.
It's Wednesday, the 19th of August. It's from 9:30 to 3, and we would be providing lunch as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I know, Social Security just keep giving. It's amazing. We'll be providing lunch as well, and it's at the St. Paul's Anglican Church Hall.
Okay, and where can people register? Your final word.
They can contact Social Security. They can call me. My number is 667-3391, or they can call our office 469-5245. And we're always happy to accommodate.
Okay. Thank you very much, Karen.
And thank you so very much, Mr. Bandley. Have a good evening.
All right. Good. Okay, that is Karen Claxton. I'm ready to call it. We were waiting for at 8:15, and she had some very, very good information about a symposium that is being put on with CEDU and Social Security, catering to self-employed individuals. And Karen made a very valuable point. During COVID, I think Tutmun Saman Bagay recognized the importance of Social Security. All who ain't even pay wanted to collect. People were calling and they said they want to check because COVID and the difficulties from COVID was biting, and people rushed to Social Security. They realized that Social Security provided shelter in the storm. And I'm saying that as we try now to reopen the country, and as we hopefully look and see COVID farther and farther in the rearview mirror, that our people will be responsible. You can't expect to get and collect when you have not paid. So register. Make sure you pay. Those employers out there who taking out your employees' money and will not pay it in, pay the money in. Employees, check up. You have a right to check with Social Security to find out if your payment's up to date. Because it's important when you get sick, you get pregnant, or you have a problem such as COVID-19. It's important, and Social Security has always been there to help the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. So Nevis people, please turn out in your numbers. Symposium, it's going to be on Wednesday. It's the 15th, I think. That's the date. It's 15th? 19th, I'm sorry. And it's at the Anglican School Hall, Church Hall, I'm sorry. And it's open really for individuals to share information. They're so good, they're even going to provide lunch. So register. And whilst you're registering, register with Social Security. Do your part. Be responsible. Because at the end of the day, remember, Social Security is not a tax. A lot of people like to say, oh, the tax is not a tax. When you pay, Social Security goes into your account. The more you pay, the more you get out. And when you pay, you provide a safety net for others. Young people, you are paying so that the older people can benefit. And when you get to their age, you become an older person, the young person's paying in are paying in so you can benefit. That's the way the system works. But you can't expect to benefit and to collect when you refuse to pay. So those who are self-employed, please go in your numbers and register. Make sure that when you retire, you're no longer driving that taxi, you're no longer driving that bus, you no longer have your little snacket, but you have something that you can look forward to because Social Security is there for you. It is 8:30 and I'm going to throw little phones wide open now. 869-469-1616 and 1700. Those are the numbers that you can call if you want to be a part of the show and to let me know what it is you want to talk about and what it is you want to say this evening. As I said, I was very excited about what has been happening because I recognize that we have had a tremendous opportunity here with the Concerned Citizens Movement, and I feel really super proud about that. You know, it's one of those things that makes me feel good, and I am very happy about it. I was given a notice, forgive me, I should have said so at the start of the show as well, but for those potential taxi drivers out there and tour operators out there, I know that things are slow right now because the hotels are closed, but with the grace of God they will reopen. And as we encourage more people to invest in themselves, to become self-employed, to start their own little business, the Ministry of Tourism is starting a taxi and tour operators course, and that will start on Monday. And so we are asking people to come in and register. Remember, you can only become a licensed taxi operator if you're certified by the Ministry of Tourism. And so we're running the course starting on Monday, and please contact the Ministry of Tourism right at the Social Security building there at Pinnes if you want to be a part of that. I know people have waited long, and the course is now available starting on Monday. So please go in, register, and certify yourself to be a taxi operator or tour operator. Let's go to the phones. And could my Facebook Live be cut for a moment because I have to just say something quickly. But go to the phones. Let's see what this caller has to say. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark.
Yes, good evening. You so scarce because you were the lecture.
Good evening to you. I'm not so scarce. I'm here. Hello?
Yeah.
No, man, I'm not so scarce at all. I'm right here with you.
Okay, but tomorrow the husband come at the house. I behave nice to all of you.
That's the song I wanted to drop.
And my cousin just me and me
Yeah, she have it here.
at the house. Yeah. And tell your wife hello and have a blessed evening.
Okay, my dear. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Hi and Barnes.
Yeah.
Right, thank you.
All right. Okay. Well, I have an unexpected guest. I didn't expect. Normally I don't tolerate unexpected guests because this show we don't do this show like that. But this is somebody who is a king, and when kings come, you have to bow. Whether you feel like it or not, you have to bow because they have the power to put you in shackles. I'm only a sheriff. And so when you have a king who comes into the studio, you have to accommodate them. So this is an unintended but necessary. I'm told that there's a song.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to see if we can accommodate quickly, as we don't have a lot of time. So we're going to do this quick,
Right.
and see what this is all about. So you have the song queued up. Okay, before we get to the song, let's go back live and find out from King Hollywood. You have dropped it on us like a thief in the night.
Yes,
so tell me about
I do apologize of dropping in on you like that, but I appreciate that you accommodate me in this quick time. It's just culture have gone, but yet still the fans and people being asking for something to uplift their spirit, and then I met Astro and I met this and that, saying, boy, you're lucky there was no culture hammer, and so I decided, alright, I'm going to the studio and I'm going to do something to let them fellas know what go on. Understand? So,
Okay.
let's do it.
Alright, so we have the song queued up. Okay, let's hear the song. This is King Hollywood, brand new track.
Remix.
This is a remix. I wanna borrow a melody from the mighty Jojo. Late I lie. the pandemic affects everybody. So all the plans I had to defend, I will have to go back on the board and plan again. Fans are razzing me, still they want something new to uplift their spirit from months of curfew. Your request I obey, but tell Astro I say. Your request I obey, but tell this and that I say. Them get away, Calypsonians get away. Two Greenish songs to cause an explosion. Murray, you get away. Baker, you get away. 2020 COVID-19 take win. But next year, father and son coming. I receive a phone call from King Spicy Ginger, claim he understand yet vex no culturama. Bubble won the election and a song about money. He had prepared to come home to dethrone me. No disrespect, King. If I had that chance to pull the pin, not in Flamingo Bingy Miko would be escaping. So let me set the record straight. Next year won't be no escape. Let me set priority straight. 2021, I can't wait. But for now, you get away. And then take you get away. I don't care who up your man. Are you higher? Polo, you get away. Soki, you get away. I have a praying wife and a rich doctor, Papa. What say? I have a praying wife and a rich doctor, Papa. Yeah. You know this verse, I want to dedicate it to the leaders. Citizens and residents, yes, I hope and I pray very soon this wicked COVID could go away. It prevents us from our normal lifestyle. Only now we see tourism so fragile, money running low. Plans to reopen the borders to welcome all kind of visitors. Please tell Premier Brantley and the PM for me. Please tell Premier Brantley and the PM for me. Abby get away. Sick it's neighbors we get away. Oh, they managed to have less than 20 cases. Man, yes, we get away. We truly get away. So whether AM or PM, keep the borders closed. What say? And I'm fed up of wearing masks over me nose. Calypsonians, come next year, God's be life. No escaping. But for now, PM, keep the borders closed. A healthy nation is better than a wealthy nation.
Pap. Simple that.
So you're saying the guys get away?
They get away.
You feel they get away this year?
They get away. They get away.
I believe if any of them calling right now, they say you get away.
We say that because that's what prompted me to finish the song.
Right.
Because I started it a couple of weeks ago, and then I just threw it aside. And then Polo had a 50th birthday, so
Yes.
happy birthday again to Polo.
Yes.
Also Astro had a 50th this year too as well, and these guys just on my case, you know. So I said, man, I get back to the studio, man. I get to the studio.
Okay.
I'm gonna write something.
Good.
But I want to big up Jojo. This is Jojo Melody. I don't know if you remember this song from, I think it's 89. Marcella, you get away.
Yes.
So I use Jojo Melody. I asked him for permission, of course. Use his melody and just bring back something from long ago.
Okay.
And so I really appreciate that you give me this time out of the blues, you know, just pop in and you like that. I do apologize for that. but I really appreciate.
Well, you only get through because you're the king.
Okay, it's good to be a king. It's good to be a king. Then. All right. Then thanks a lot.
Hollywood, thank you very much.
Man, respect.
No culture armor, but you made a contribution.
Of course.
And I think we really appreciate
Of course,
that.
the fans being asking for something. So.
Good. And you say next year is you and your son coming.
Yeah, man, big things. Yeah. The truth is, I'm planning to step out. But next year gonna be a big year. Hope God spare life, because it will be the first time father and son will be competing. So I'm definitely going to go forward for that too.
But you know, if your son beat you, you're not gonna look good enough.
No, that would be a good thing.
That
would be a good thing. All right, respect.
King Hollywood.
Yeah, man. All right, nice.
God bless. All right, good. That was King Hollywood dropping in on us, little unexpectedly, but it's worth it because he dropped in with a brand new tune for Culturama. No Culturama this year, but he did a tune anyway, and that is what cultural icons do. They contribute, and he has contributed a song here that those of you who are listening to On The Mark would have heard for the first time this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you just tuned in, I am Mark Brantley. You're watching me on Facebook. You are watching me on Von Live. You are watching me. Where else you watching me? I don't even know. But I hope you're watching. If you're not watching, I hope you're listening on 860 AM or www.vonradio.com. That's where you can find us, and we continue to be the biggest show in the Caribbean. You hear what I say? The biggest show in the Caribbean, because this talk show has been going now for 14 years, and people are tuned in. People are always interested in what we have to say and are interested in being a part of the conversation. So thank you to all who continue to make this show what it is. Let me turn the show now over to the real people, the callers. You're the ones who matter most, and we're going to invite your calls now at 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. Let's go to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yeah, good night, Mr. Brantley. How are you?
I am well, thank you. How are you doing?
Oh, you're giving God thanks, man. He has been good to us, you know.
Yes, he has been very good to us.
Yes. What is the, I have not seen the Nevis news on the television for a few nights. No, what is the problem?
Well, I really don't know what the problem is.
Have you heard so?
I am happy you've raised it, because somebody called me to say that suddenly ZIZ is no longer carrying the Nevis news. I am hopeful that it's only a technical glitch, because we worked long and hard to get the Nevis news to the good people of St. Kitts.
I would suggest that the matter be, you know.
Well, I'm going to try and find out what's going on, because
I mean, I should look forward. I mean, people in St. Kitts, that is how you get to know what's going on over there.
And vice versa, because we get ZIZ over here as well.
Yes.
So that was the whole idea behind it. So
I miss it.
Yes, well, I'm going to try and...
lady, Hendrickson, her name is.
Yes.
A very nice voice.
Good. Well, I'm going to try to find out what's going on, because
what
I
exactly
think...
What's going on over there? Why all of a sudden some Kittitians want the passport to come to Nevis?
They don't need a passport. We're just a boat
All I hear is how Nevis nice and...
Well, Nevis is always nice, but I think our brothers and sisters in St. Kitts are discovering, and some of them are rediscovering the niceness.
Staycation and everything.
Yes, man.
Now, another thing I listened to the Christina commemoration.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I had two relatives on the boat. They're two Freeman sisters from Gingerland, Rollins, actually. They used to come by us when the time I was younger. When they come to sell, and whatever they don't sell, they would give us some, tangerine and stuff.
Yeah.
So I have been wondering, did they have children? Maybe you don't know, but maybe somebody could answer.
I don't know.
Hello?
I don't know.
Oh, well, maybe somebody who's listening, could you tell me? My mother's father was from Rollins, but she never came to Nevis, because their father died young. And I have been trying over the years. A number of the Freeman live in St. Kitts, so I know those. But I'm not familiar with the Nevis set. So when I hear people speaking about people drowning off the boat and they left their children, I said, I wonder if they have children. So that is the question. Good night to my good friends in Nevis. Miss Jennifer Freeman from the Nevis Light and Blind thing, Miss Clark for the Association in Nevis of Disabled People, and Godwin Brown and his family down in Sherry Village. God bless everybody, and all of my other relatives. But so I'd like somebody to let me know if they know if the two women had children, All right then.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening to my dear friend Ursula Phillip in Atlanta. I always say Atlanta. In Georgia, she's in Villa Rica, rich town. Villa Rica in Georgia. Ursula, good evening to you. Good evening to the entire family. Good evening to your fabulous dogs as well. I hope they're listening. And I just want to remind everybody that the conversations with the people, a series of town hall meetings being put on by the Concerned Citizens Movement-led NIA, that those continue tomorrow in the great parish of St. Paul's, right there at the St. Paul's Anglican Church Hall. We will be there, and we've had excellent meetings thus far in Cotton Ground, in Combermere, in Bath Village, and now we go tomorrow evening, Thursday evening at 7:30 at the Anglican Church Hall in Charlestown. We have conversations with the people where we're bringing the government to the community. So we're saying you can come see us, but we're coming to see you. So please come with your questions, and the ministers and the entire cabinet will be on hand to update you. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Branson.
Good evening to you.
Yes. Just a quick question.
Sure.
The Prime Minister in his press conference announced that he and I think the Honorable Wendy Phipps were supposed to be in Nevis today to have discussions with Four Seasons management. Presumably, the reopening in October. Were you a part of that meeting? Do you know if the meeting happened? Were you a part of the meeting?
I saw some photographs saying that the meeting occurred. I was actually in the cabinet. Wednesday is the cabinet day for the Nevis Island administration. But the answer is no. I was not informed of any such meeting. I was not invited to any such meeting. I was not aware of any such meeting until I saw the photos that were sent out from a meeting.
Should we be concerned? I mean, you're Minister of Aviation and you're also the Tourism Minister in Nevis.
Well, I don't know what the meeting was about, I'll be honest with you. As I said, I was surprised when I saw the photos, because I would have thought that if the Prime Minister was coming to Nevis for a meeting that involved the people of Nevis, that the first port of call would be the Premier of Nevis.
I would have thought so.
To say to the Premier, I'm here, I'm going to be doing this or that. So why the Prime Minister would have come and not said anything, I have no idea. I really cannot speak for him. But that, to my mind, was quite unusual and bizarre. We have in Nevis a Minister of Labour, duly elected by the people of Nevis, Minister Spencer Brand. We have an entire Department of Labour. And if it was a discussion about labour matters, they were not invited, they were not aware. I was not invited, I was not aware. And I find the whole thing a little odd. I'm sure there's a good explanation for it. I just don't know what that explanation could be. But I was in the cabinet with my cabinet. We had a very lengthy meeting today. We were getting briefed on the reopening of schools and daycare centers and the like, when we saw some photos coming in saying that some meeting was happening at the Four Seasons, which, as you know, is the principal.
An understatement, then.
Is the principal.
In those circumstances, I would think.
Well, as I said, I can't speak to that because I don't know what the reasoning could be. But as I said,
you were informed of the reopening, the planned reopening in October?
Yes, of course.
Right.
That is a matter that has been canvassed in the federal cabinet, so I was well aware of that. But as I said, this meeting today, I found it odd. We meet in cabinet at the federal level on Mondays, and unless this meeting was arranged today, nothing was said in the cabinet on Monday.
As I said, it was the press conference that he announced it.
That was yesterday, Tuesday.
That was yesterday.
Well, regrettably, I was not at the press conference. I had some, a sad event where a friend passed, and they had an unusual thing where they had the burial via Zoom, but I had to be there. And so I couldn't attend the press conference. So I, in fact, did not hear that. But in any event, as I said, I would have thought that the first call would be to the Premier of Nevis. I think sometimes people forget that Nevis has a government. That constitutionally Nevis has a government elected by the people of Nevis. And I'm proud to say elected overwhelmingly by the people of Nevis.
But
the people of Nevis...
You have always interacted with the Four Seasons. I'm still aghast as to what could possibly have happened.
Well, Call, I don't know. As I said,
consultation with them.
As I said, I do not know what the discussions were about because I was neither invited nor informed, and nobody from the NIA was invited or informed. So I cannot help you on that.
Because it was made in the context at the press conference, in the context of the reopening, the announced reopening of Hyatt and Marriott as well. So,
Okay.
you know.
Well, perhaps you know more than me at this juncture. Perhaps I will learn more in the days and weeks ahead.
I'm sure, but
you're calling me on the show here, and I am unaware of what this meeting was about. It appeared quite odd to me. That is all I can say at this point. But I say publicly, and I hold no water in my mouth, that the people of Nevis have a government, and we must recognize and remember that the people of Nevis elected a government. There's a premier of Nevis. There are ministers in Nevis who have responsibility. They're not appointed. They're not selected. They are elected people.
But even from the federal standpoint, you're aviation minister.
Well, I don't even talk about that as much, because clearly at the federal level there have been discussions. But my view is, if there is going to be an engagement on the island of Nevis involving, as it is, a significant employer, significant numbers of workers in Nevis, living in Nevis. In fact, I will tell you candidly, someone rang me after the cabinet today and said that they were surprised that I was not there, and I had to tell them I wasn't aware that there was any such meeting. So, as I said, there must be good reason. I just don't know what those reasons are, and I can't speak to what I don't know.
All right.
All right?
Okay then.
Thank you very much. It is about 8 minutes to the hour of 9 o'clock. We're taking your calls on 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Is anybody holding? No. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're having a good discussion tonight on most and many things. Just to remind of the town hall meeting, Conversations with the People, happening tomorrow, Thursday, starting at 7:30 at the St. Paul's Anglican Church Hall. And, of course, to remind persons that the taxi and tour operators training is going to commence on Monday, right at the Ministry of Tourism. And so you're encouraged to go to the Ministry of Tourism there in the Social Security building at Pinnes and to sign up for that course. You can only become a taxi operator or tour operator if you have the necessary certification that you have attended that course. And so we ask you to go and be a part of that. Let's go back to the phones and take some more calls. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Brantley. How are you doing?
I am well, thank you. Good evening to you.
I'm good, man. I'm good too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, how is my good friend Alex?
Man, he's doing well.
Okay, he doing well up there, and he's doing well down here too with his agriculture portfolio. Everybody talking about him. He's doing good. Do you have any cabbage up there?
Why, I really can't speak. He will be better able to answer that. I don't know.
Okay, because I need a cabbage. Now, I want to agree with you when you were talking about the Social Security people.
Yes.
Because I live in St. Thomas for a lot of years.
Mm.
And I have worked with many established companies in St. Thomas. And when I have spare time or vacation or whatever, I would go and work with individuals, construction. Well, regardless of what, I'm working with you. And if you want to come and pay me all my money in my hand, and I have not a record of the amount of money that I work for, something is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them now were encouraging me to leave the established companies that I was working for and work with them permanently. I said, no. I got to work where people are going to take out my Social Security and put it aside. Because when you start to fall tomorrow and I can't go work, I could draw that. So when people go to work and they stretch out their hand and they want to box up their hand with all the money, it might sweet them at the moment.
That's a short-term gain, but long-term difficulty.
That's right. That's why the old people say, what's sweet a goat mouth sour behind there?
Mm.
Yeah, it's sweet when you're eating all now, but when the time comes, you ain't got nothing behind you. So I agree with you to encourage people to pay the Social Security while they are working.
Mm.
Because Social Security people, they have a program on the radio down here every week. For years now, they've been doing that, advising people to pay Social Security. So therefore, if you don't put in any while you're working, why should you making noise now to get when you didn't put in any when you're working? That can't be right. And then the next thing, this year makes 50 years since our Christina sink.
Yes.
And this is my opinion. I do not think they should allow anybody to go down there and take any picture of that boat down there.
Mm.
If you want to pass by and look at it and whatever it is, that's fine, but don't get on a camera and take no picture. because people take pictures to that people could have it for 100+ years. They say a picture worth 1,000 years. So when people got to look at that boat, and then the mind flashback and at that what caused it to go down? It did not anchor out to the sea for years or days and months, and it take on water and went down, and it went down with human. And when you got to look at the boat and think about how the people suffer to get out of the boat, and many persons drown, that could traumatize the memory of people. So I would suggest nobody take the picture of it. If you want to go down and look at it, that's fine, but don't go down with a camera and take the picture, because people are going to take picture and make money off of it. And when people look at it, you know what can happen to them. You can traumatize them. So therefore, let us just imagine what happened on that dreadful Saturday afternoon, and we do not have anything to look at it and remind us of it.
Okay, brother.
Yeah, thank you, brother.
Thank you for your call. All right, I'm here and I'm on my phone because messages are coming in fast and furiously. Somebody reminded me that I should, of course, make a comment on the historic announcement by Joe Biden that Kamala Harris will be running. She is of, I'm told, Jamaican, Indian American descent, and a woman of color. She'll be on the ticket as vice president. That appears to be creating a lot of excitement in the United States, and I see all the Jamaicans tweeting and putting out information saying that if they win, that, you know, it's pure ackee and saltfish in the White House going forward. So it's gonna be interesting. Joe Biden and Harris, Biden-Harris. In sync, it says Harris again, so it might be Harris again. Who knows? This will be a very interesting race. And of course, in Jamaica, the Prime Minister Andrew Holness has announced the polling day in Jamaica is going to be September 3rd, which will make Jamaica, I think, Guyana, Suriname, St. Kitts and Nevis, Trinidad and Tobago, and now Jamaica, Anguilla, I'm sorry, and Jamaica are going to be the Caribbean countries and islands thus far that have had elections. So we see what happens in Jamaica. Good evening to all my Jamaican friends. I have many friends who are contesting elections. I wish them all the very best. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening. You are on the mark. Hello.
Good evening, Mark. What's up?
I'm good, thank you.
All right. Good program as usual.
Thanks, brother.
It's good that everybody's getting information about what's going on in the country right now, the opening up and all that. Heard the Prime Minister talk about it, and the country, as it were, need to build again. So the opening up, I think, would create that growth again. So I'm happy that that's soon to be. He was at Four Seasons today, you know, giving out information again. By the way, I think somebody was asking if you were invited or if you were there. I don't remember seeing you.
No, I was not there, and in fact, I wasn't invited. I wasn't even aware that the meeting. I recall that the manager of the Four Seasons had indicated to me some weeks ago that they were trying to put a meeting together. But I would have thought that the NIA would have been an integral part of any such meeting. But sadly, we learned about it via some pictures that we saw when we were in the cabinet. But that is as it may. I don't know what the meeting was about, as I said, because nothing was said to the NIA, nothing was said to the Premier of Nevis. And I think that was unfortunate in the extreme. But the meeting occurred, and to the extent that it was helpful to workers there, then I say good, because certainly those workers are critical to the future of Nevis and the development of the island, and we want the Four Seasons to be reopened as quickly as possible. You know, and everybody would know, that the island depends very heavily on tourism, and with our borders closed, we have hurt more than most on Nevis. And so we have been struggling, really struggling financially on the island of Nevis, and so it's good news to hear that we are talking about border reopening. But it would have been a very good thing if at least the members of the Labour Department and the Minister of Labour were there today as well, because let us not forget that any of your claims or anything to be processed will have to be processed here in Charlestown before they're sent to St. Kitts. So, you know, having everybody on the same page, singing from the same hymn sheet is usually very important. And so I really can't understand, as I said, I found it bizarre in the extreme that this meeting would have occurred and nothing was said.
to the NIA. But, as I said, maybe there are reasons that I am not aware of.
Well, it's a perfect world, you know. But I'm happy, and I know, and I have confidence that the new Italian administration is able to also give this information and make us aware, and you know, pretty much we have confidence in your administration and in your ability to help them. So we are happy for that.
Okay, thanks, Miller, my brother. And we will continue to work hard. As I said, you know, despite it all, the people of Nevis are very clear who they want to govern and who they want to serve them at this point in time. I don't know if they're going to change their mind tomorrow or next year. But for now, as I like to say, I've said in the past, they are with me, and I'm with. They continue to work together.
Absolutely, my friend. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, brother. It is just about 9 o'clock. We have the lines wide open. 869-469-1616. 869-469-1700. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark. Hello. Okay, that caller isn't there. Are they there? Good evening.
Yes. Good evening again, Mr.
Yes, good evening to you.
Regarding the Christina, I know you made some comment before the commemoration of the 50th year on Facebook.
Yes.
I just wondered what was your overall impression of the commemoration, and if you think it was a watershed moment, if you think there is more needs to be done. How do you view the event, and is it going to be? Was the healing process really started, or was it enough?
Well, caller, I think you've raised some very important questions. I'm not sure I'm qualified to answer them all. What I will say is that I was born on the 11th of January 1969, and Christina happened on the 1st of August 1970. So I was a mere boy of 1.5 or thereabouts. So I have no personal recollection. But I have, growing up, seen the impact of that Christina disaster on our people, particularly the people of Nevis, because the majority of those who perished were from Nevis. But there were, I believe, if my memory serves, some 65 or so persons who perished who were from the sister island of St. Kitts. And you and I both know that had the ferry been going in the opposite direction, it might really have been more Kittitians who perished. It just happened that, you know, we don't know why, but the ferry was coming to Nevis on that fateful afternoon. Indeed, during the commemorative sitting of the NIA that we had, Dr. Douglas, our former Prime Minister, made a revelation which sent chills through me, that he was actually on that boat on the very morning, because he was in Nevis, he said, with friends and family, and he went down the Saturday morning back to St. Kitts, and the boat sank the Saturday afternoon coming from St. Kitts to Nevis. So it just tells you how people could have been affected, and the trajectory of the country could have been impacted in such a way. We don't know who of those who perished would have been our Prime Minister, who could have been our Governor General, who could have been our surgeon, or carpenter, or fisherman. We have no idea. A lot of people perished. Up to now, they still don't know how many. We have a record of 233 that perished, and I believe it was 92 that survived. 91, I'm sorry, that survived. So it's a tragedy. My difficulty over the years, caller, is that perhaps because of the toxicity of the politics of the day back then, because the people of Nevis blamed St. Kitts, they blamed Bradshaw, it was a government-owned ferry, they blamed the Labour Party, and perhaps because of that, we never really had an acceptance of responsibility. We never had any counseling that was offered to those who were left behind to mourn, or even to some of the survivors. I'm aware, for example, of a gentleman who I would say is a friend of mine, and I learnt only recently that he survived the Christina and has never in the last 50 years left the island of Nevis to go back to St. Kitts. Just consider for a moment the trauma that that event would have had on somebody's psyche, that for 50 years they have not ventured back to St. Kitts as a consequence of that experience. And I'm sure those stories are all around. What pained me is that after all these years, we have never had the authorities or the people on St. Kitts, on that side of the Federation, recognizing this as a national tragedy. It has been always commemorated in Nevis and always treated as if it were a uniquely Nevisian tragedy. And I believe that this year, on the 50th anniversary, the NIA and the cabinet that I'm privileged to lead took the decision that we wanted to do something that will shine the national spotlight on the Christina disaster. And so we came up with this idea to have the special sit-in. And we came up with a further idea to afford all of the prime ministers and all of the premiers that are still alive the opportunity to speak at that particular sit-in. And I think it went beyond our wildest imagination, and I believe that it pricked the conscience of our nation in a way, because I was very pleased to see that the National Museum on St. Kitts mounted an exhibit and had a commemorative service there on the day, 1st of August 2020, which marked the 50th anniversary, and that they did that to recognize, perhaps at long last, that this is in fact a national tragedy. I was also very pleased that the Honorable Prime Minister used that occasion to announce that for the first time in 50 years, there will be a monument mounted on St. Kitts to this tragedy. Let us not forget, caller, that we are advised that there is to this day a mass grave at Springfield Cemetery, which doesn't even have a marker to say that here are the victims of this tragedy that was Christina. Yeah. And so I think that the country needs healing, and the country needs some kind of what did they call it in South Africa when they had truth and reconciliation. Yes, in relation to this tragedy, because for far too long I believe people saw it as a Nevis thing. And in fact, it was a national tragedy. The boat was owned by the government, the central government on St. Kitts. The people that perished were both Kittitians and Nevisians. And so in every sense, it was a national tragedy. This was the only inter-island ferry. And it sank for a variety of reasons, overcrowding and a number of other reasons. We have learned some valuable lessons since then. But I will tell you, you talk about a sort of the arousing of our conscious and our consciousness, if you will. Our conscience, that's the word I wanted, and our consciousness about this particular event in our history. And I was very pleased that on Saturday last, I was invited by the National Museum to read to the young children there at the National Museum. And the story that they had me read was a story about the Christina. And I entertained the youngsters with questions and all of that. And I thought that it's as I said, a good beginning to a process that I think has to stay with us. Let me just say, I don't want to keep you unduly, but let me just say that the speech that Mr. Parry, as a former premier, made, I thought was one of the finest speeches made in the Nevis Island Assembly. I told him so I don't think he'll be surprised, even though he said I'm not his friend.
Question. The monument in Nevis.
Yes, there are two.
Inscripted with the names of those who perished?
Yes, there are two monuments in Nevis.
All of them?
Well, all that are known. Because remember...
St. Kitts and Kittitians and Nevisians?
Yes, all who perished. Remember, there's still some debate as to how many people were actually on the boat. And remember that a lot of the victims were never recovered. So, you know, it is at best an estimate, although an educated one, as to who were there. These are only the people that we were able to identify. And so we said 233 perished, but certainly it could have been more because some bodies were simply never seen again, never recovered.
Right.
But
insofar as the Nevisian public was concerned, what feedback did you get? Did you get the impression that well, I don't know if you could ever get closure for some, but at least I don't know what to call it exactly. That there was more empathy around, more understanding.
Let me be direct with you. Empathy has never been scarce on Nevis in relation to this tragedy. That has never been the issue. I think the issue over the years is the lack, or the perceived lack, let me put it that way, of recognition and empathy on St. Kitts. On Nevis, we have always recognized, I think that this service that we have has been going now for 20 odd years. There are 2 monuments to the Christina on Nevis. One on the Hunkins Drive, facing out to the ocean, and the other at Bath Cemetery, where there is also a mass grave. In fact, this year, we unveiled at Bath Cemetery a plaque where the names of those buried there in that mass grave are noted. And the Deputy Governor General, Her Honor Hailita Liebert, and myself were there to unveil that particular plaque. So Nevis has tried to keep the memory alive. Nevis has tried to memorialize this tragedy. And I spoke about Mr. Parry's speech, because what I think Mr. Parry did on that day was to capture in a very real way what the aftermath of that tragedy was like for the people of Nevis. And so the Nevis Reformation Party arose out of the Christina disaster. He pointed to the Nevis Credit Union that would have come. He pointed to the Nevis Cricket Association that would have come. He pointed to NIDAX, which then created Culturama, was a forerunner for Culturama, which would have come. And so out of that tragedy and that mourning and that horrible incident came, if you will, a rebirth, a sort of renaissance in Nevis. And I think he captured that beautifully. If you have a chance to listen to that speech, I think you should.
I heard it.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
The only fear I had really is that that is so ingrained in the psyche of Nevisians. Relating all those things means that it shows what an important part of history, Nevisian history, that there is. And so, speaking from across the channel, it does seem as if Nevis has ownership of the event, in a sense, right? Because they were impacted, I think, more, right? So when you mentioned just now, for instance, the blame and that sort of thing, that would provoke a kind of visceral, defensive kind of stance. And I don't know how you marry the two, but it would have been nice if it is seen as some kind of closure insofar as relations between St. Kitts and Nevis are concerned.
Well, Macaulay, let us face the fact that our history is not what we would like it to be. It is what it is. And so, whether you're talking about the horrors of slavery and who are responsible for that, or you're talking about the horrors of the Christina, who was responsible for that, you talk about emancipation and who was responsible for that, whatever you talk about in history, there will be a narrative that is associated with it. We ought not to run away from that narrative.
But there should be an official narrative, eh?
Well, but history, as you know, is such that there will be an official narrative, to be sure, but there will also be the narrative of those who lived and experienced, because that is part of the history. And African cultures, and I put ourselves in that bracket, have a history of the spoken word, so to speak, handed down from generation to generation.
Right.
What I am saying is that although it is 50 years on, it is still not too late. In fact, it's never too late to do what is right. And so this 50th commemoration gave us all an opportunity to reflect. It gave us an opportunity to remember, but it also gave us a new opportunity to heal and to hold hands and say, well, listen, 50 years on, let us try to get across the divides that might have been created.
Right.
But it is not going to come without effort, and I believe that what the Prime Minister did in St. Kitts was a good thing, because I made a call in my own speech in the Nevis Island Assembly. I said it was time that we had a monument in St. Kitts.
You know what the ultimate monument would be?
I don't know. It is early stages yet.
No. I'm talking about the ultimate monument. I think would be a bridge between St. Kitts and Nevis.
Well, that may be the ultimate monument, but until that happens, I believe that we have a duty, and a solemn duty at that, to those who perished and to those who survived. That we remember them, we commemorate that, and we do not try to brush it under the rug or to say it.
Mr. Brantley, I don't think anybody in St. Kitts really wish to brush it aside. I mean, I myself.
So why do you think over all these years?
I have memories of the flares that night.
So let me ask you, why do you think that all these years the people of St. Kitts have not even had a service to commemorate this tragedy?
I can only speculate.
Yes.
But I think they regarded it as a sensitive, something very sensitive to Nivision. Okay? And it was like a hot potato. They weren't exactly sure how to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I think in response to one of the comments you made, I said, people are very personal in the way that they grieve and don't like other people to tell them how to grieve. And so I think it was a case of not knowing how best to handle it, right? More than any kind of being dismissive or unsympathetic. Okay, can't be. I mean, look how many of us lost relatives too, right? But I think that was the thing. We were very afraid to venture. Maybe if as you did, actually call for something officially to be done, it would have been done already. Okay,
mm-hmm.
You know, if some other premier had actually said it is time that St. Kitts erect a monument to what happened there, it would have been done already. But for it to be advanced from St. Kitts, to be initiated by St. Kitts, like I said, it seemed a very personal thing to more of a personal thing to Nivision, because they suffered so much. And so just like how you would look at any grieving family, you're very careful in how you express your sympathy and that sort of thing. Okay. That's all right. My thing.
Good. Well, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right. It is 20 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. We're taking your calls. We did spend some time with this caller because I think it was an important topic, the issue of Christina and how we as a country, not just Nevis, but as a country, ought to remember this tragedy. Let's go back to the phones and take some more calls. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Good evening. I like how you had him stumbling. You see, some people are quick to create confusion and dissension, but they are slow to take blame. Now, I was looking forward to the people being for an apology, an official apology from the Labour Party. I told somebody so. It does not mean that Dr. Douglas did it, you know. And the Commission of Inquiry confirmed that the government was responsible. And I was shocked to listen to some of the people who came on different shows talking about having never received anything. Here we are fighting for reparation from Europeans, and you have your own fellow men. I hear a young man say he had to leave school and go and look work, and some of them never get anything. Families were split up and shared out. You understand what I'm saying? It was pure politics.
Mm-hmm.
So all the mumbling that just went on there. I think it starts, you see, we talk about South Africa and Rwanda. Truth and reconciliation begins with an acceptance of wrong and an apology. And I believe the people of Nevis, when I brought up the thing about, somebody said, oh no, they know somebody in St. Kitts who got. Well, if the Nevis family structure was disrupted so badly, what did they get? How were they compensated? Because I would have expected that the social welfare, whatever, would have come in. You understand? And people today, I had on the VI in the morning, it comes on 90.7 out of St. Croix. And a gentleman was just talking about how he got to St. Croix and no support. So what exactly, that is where the truth must come in. We want to know the truth. And I think I was expecting to hear an apology. I still expect it, you know. We got to learn to be honest. You can't want reparation for slaves, your ancestors who gone before. And people here still in shock. I was to go on the boat, you know. Dress and everything.
Wow.
Yes. That's why I don't hush. And I was pregnant. My son was born September. Waiting for my husband to come home so I could go down to the play. I was living in Newtown. Just gotten married early in the year. And my husband came and said, Sylvine, I just passed by down by the customs where it was. And the crowd on the pier, Sylvine, I don't think you should go. I used to go over Bat Village with relatives. All the Payne and Mama Seaton and them. I used to stay over there with Tamin wife Gertrude. And it begged me, Sylvine, don't go, you know, you can't swim and you're already pregnant if anything happened to you. Right? You know, you're gone. Well, I really didn't appreciate his talk, to be honest. Take off my clothes, I went to sleep. And when I woke up later in the afternoon, heard the radio wailing, so I said, so I asked my neighbor, how the governor, dead? He said, no, you happened to you in a Christina Sink. You know? I met other co-worker who told me she was on the pier with her ticket. Many people were on the pier. I tell you, the crowd that was on the pier was planning to go on that same boat, you know. And the insurance company testified that they had written to the government warning them about it. I heard Whitman Brown on the same St. Croix station last week saying that it was more than just the boat overloaded. He said what happened, what he learned was that the boat had done some work on the engine on the Thursday, and maybe through negligence had left the latch open, the latch or the hatch, whichever one, and water was coming in. That is why on the Friday people were complaining about the water in the boat. But I suppose because of the thing of the people, you know. He said by the Saturday, so when people talking about the water, and all of this negligence, up to now, nobody, Mr. McMahon, come back on since you are the mouthpiece of the Labour Party. And apologize.
Okay.
Apologize to the divisions. You don't think they feel better?
All right. Okay.
All right then.
Thank you for that. You say apologize to the divisions, but again, I remind everybody that yes, the majority who perish were divisions, but Kittitians also perish. And perhaps that is part of the thinking that we must change, that an apology, if one is due to those who perish. Not to divisions, not to Kittitians, but to those who perish, because people from across the country perished on that day. And that is what I have been agitating for, that we move the debate and the narrative and put it where it properly belongs, at the national level. So I'm happy that our initiative here in Nevis has brought prime ministers to the forum, brought them to the podium. Dr. Simmons spoke, Dr. Douglas spoke, Dr. Harris spoke, and then of course Mr. Amry spoke, Mr. Perry spoke, and I was afforded the privilege to speak as well. An historic day, 31st of July 2020, which I feel was a watershed moment in the history of St. Kitts and Nevis, and which has now prompted other things, because we're now hearing, of course, about a monument in St. Kitts. I announced a fund in Nevis, a scholarship for swimming lessons and to promote art and literature, anything to do with the Christina. So we are going to be setting up things in Nevis and continue what we have been doing. And I would want to pay homage and credit to those who went before me, because it was the previous administrations in Nevis that put up the monument on the waterfront, put up the monument at the Bath Cemetery, and we will continue to build on that. And so St. Kitts, welcome. Come on board. This is a national tragedy. Let us commemorate it as such. There has to be something up at Springfield Cemetery to mark that grave. I believe after all these years, it is time that that unmarked mass grave is properly commemorated. Let us treat our people with the dignity that they deserve. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yes, Mr. Brantley.
Yes.
I think you asked the guy there, Mr. McMahon, a question. Why is it no monument been built down here?
Yes.
Well, you know what the Bible says? Where your treasure is, there lies your heart. And the people of Nevis have shown that they treasure the amount of people that perish under Christiano. So therefore the heart was with them. And that's where they treasure them, so the heart was with them. And that's the reason why they built 2 monuments. And down here, all them years come up to 50. The people down here, heart was never with the people who perish on this Christiano. So therefore, they never treasure them because the heart never there. That's the simple answer to it. Why no monument have been built with all them years Christiano went down. Thank you, Mr. Brantley.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we're sticking with the phones. It is, do we have another call? Yes, let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
You are on the mark.
I don't think that you really intended for the issue to be raised tonight, but you know, we probably still in the month of that terrible disaster, and it's on the mind of people. Division, many would have passed on, and it's something that affected division from 1970, and it would never end because 50 years would have passed and no recognition and distinctive end of what happened. The gentleman was saying, oh, maybe they didn't know how to address the matter. But I mean, you have 50 years at least to learn how to do it. 5 years, 3 years probably would have been enough. But you know, Mr. Brantley, in those years, I mean, I could remember in the mid and late 60s, it was a heated political battle between St. Kitts and Nevis.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some time ago, when I called in on the show and I mentioned a book that an Englishman lent me entitled Under the
English Heaven.
Under the English Heaven.
Yes.
And maybe you probably would have read that book already. But when you read that book, it outlines to you the struggles that St. Kitts and Anguilla had under the Labour Party, under the then Douglas Party. And his aim and plan was to give division bone in the rice and pepper in the soup. And so when Christina sank, it was, for me, it was like nothing to him. Because it's like he wanted to get rid of Nevision. One of the things he said in the book, he was going to turn Nevis into a green or something like that, into partial land. I mean, if you're going to turn Nevis into partial land, then what are you going to do to the people? You're going to get rid of the people. Drive them out in the sea or something. So, I mean, it was a heated political battle, I mean, back in those years.
Mm-hmm.
And when Butter died, it was, I think it was a burden lifted from division. Because it was then, who was the man from Dominica, the Paul Southwell?
Yes.
There was something that Gosha began to initiate as to, it was a kind of communism thing he wanted to bring in the island of St. Kitts and Nevis. That, you know, he and Bonham was born friends. And whatever old guns and thing he had, I mean, Bonham, he brought them over to Nevis. I live in the country, and I know a lot of things that happened in the first secession move that they had in the Nevis. A whole ton of army men came over here, scouting around trying to steal divisions. So when the Christina sank, I mean, 50 years, and nothing would have done on the part of Cincy. It's not that they didn't know to deal with it. It's not that they didn't know to deal with it. And I mean, the lady who called and said that something should have been done for the young, especially children, who lost their parents. Because, I mean, negligence, I mean, the old folks used to go, well, I don't call them old folks, but they used to go down to Cincy to sell. I mean, I could remember those days. My mother used to go down, but just so happened that my mother had stopped a few months before. And my aunt and a few people from the village who used to go down, they had stopped. I mean, what would have happened if, I mean, a matter of fact, it wasn't them alone. There were quite a few other people who used to go down and they stopped. I mean, it would have been a bigger loss on the island of Nevis if some of the folks didn't quit. So, I mean, when you look at the whole matter, Mr. Brantley, something should have been done for those young children who went who automatically turned into orphans.
Orphans, yeah.
You know, I mean, there was I don't remember if it was last week or week before last week on Rebel Show. I think it was the same week when they had the commemoration. A young lady called in, and I think I remember his voice. Probably could have been one of my classmates. Said that they lost their mother. They lost their mother, and their father left them. She was at the age of 11 years, and she said that the father let her say, "Look, you are going to have to plan it out for yourself. I going to get married." I mean, people didn't know to deal with the matter of this. So a lot of children were left behind, and these children who had to struggle on, something should have been done. Something should have been done for them. I mean, even up until today. I mean, it was not an easy thing, Mr. Brantley. And so the talk would continue because it is something that affected Nevision, and even those who wasn't born yet, who came and who come on the scene and hear it, it affects them too. It affects us because we used to support Cincy with food and meat and fish and provision and I mean, that was the livelihood of Cincy, I mean, of Nevision in those days. So yeah, something should have been done, Mr. Brantley. 50 years is too long.
Well, thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you very much for that. You know, it's tragic, and anytime we have a conversation about this, you know, it reopens those wounds that I know so many people have. As I said, my objective as somebody in leadership now is to really have that tragedy fixed in its rightful place in our history. All right, so that's where I am. We have more calls. Let's go right back to the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark. Hello.
Hi, Mr. Brantley. Good night. How are you, man?
I'm good, thank you.
I say good night to the entire Nevis population, especially those in Brown Hill. Now, let me ask you a question. If I can remember, you can. Did you find the $8 million down the treasury?
8 million?
Yeah.
No.
But you know what I'm talking about?
No, what $8 million?
Huh?
Oh, the $8 million which should have come for Christina victims?
Okay, good.
Yes.
Good, you got me.
No, we never found it.
Okay, good. Well, you could ask who said that it was down there. Maybe they know where it was.
Yeah, well,
who said so?
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Okay, that's all I wanted to say.
All right.
All right.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to On The Mark. I'm your host, Mark Brantley. And we're taking your calls at 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. Just to remind that tomorrow evening, our Conversations with the People continues. It will be at the St. Paul's Anglican Church Hall at 7:30. We have done them in now Cotton Ground. We went up to the Franklin Brown Community Center. We went to the Albertha Payne Community Center in Bath. And now we will be at the St. Paul's Anglican Church Hall. there in the heart of Charlestown. We are asking one and all to come out, bring your questions, bring your comments, conversations with the people. We're bringing the government to you. We're going parish by parish, community by community, and affording individuals an opportunity to speak with the government, to ask questions, to get information, and to share your views and concerns. Conversations with the people. We continue tomorrow at 7:30. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Good evening.
How are you, sir?
I'm well, thank you. How are you doing?
I think I'm doing fine. I just wanted to see if I could just help him briefly on a previous caller who, well, this is the first time I'm hearing his voice, because for quite about 5 years I've been calling on the government, that is the government in power then, that was Team Unity.
Yes.
And that they should erect a monument.
Yes.
Both at the cemetery, because you see, Mr. Brantley, I was there as a former member of the defense force at the Central Party.
Caller? Yeah? Okay, we're hearing you now again. You were garbled for a while. You on a mobile?
Yes.
Okay, well, we're hearing you now, so stay where you are. Don't move around.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yes, so part of the defense force, I saw when those bodies were brought ashore. I think it's the Sunday, bodies ashore, the Sunday, Monday, and the Tuesday. I think they had discontinued bringing bodies ashore. And the state of the bodies, they were taken up at the cemetery. Trench was built, was dug, and they were just thrown inside here in a respectable manner, I must say. I made a comment there some weeks ago that
Kuala, I'm so sorry, but you keep cracking up. We're not hearing you properly.
Oh Lord, I must see.
Okay, I'm hearing you now again. Try again.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Again, okay. The Senate House, and I decided that I'm not going down there to pay homage to those people, because, to be very frank, with all due respect, they serve, and I don't know those people. So my thing now is that until they build a monument to commemorate the death of those people that went down on Christina in 1970, I will not go back down at the Senate House again. And I've been calling now for about 5 years. Every time I call in the above during August, because right now I have the Christina picture on my profile, because I have 2 books that was written by Mr. Whitman, Dr. Whitman Brown, and plus the Christina Inquiry, and also a little booklet describing the boat when they bought it. So to hear people come now, I mean, the Labour government was in power. We're not blaming anybody. Pam was in power. Then the Labour government was in power for 20 years. Then Unity was in power. It's about time. It's really about time. So what are the excuses? There should be no excuse at all. It's people from St. Kitts and people from Nevis who perish. Maybe the majority could have been division. But to come here and people are afraid to do what? To build a monument? 5 years. 5 years. I've been calling every August that something should be done. But now the Prime Minister said that something is going to be done. We're going to wait to see how long it's going to take place. It's about time. There are people like us, black people like us, family. My father was from Nevis, is from Nevis. Stanley from Nevis. So it's really unfair that all this time, the 50 years gone, and nothing's been done. And I take the Prime Minister now at his word that something going to be done. So to come now and say the reason why people can't do it and so on, as that man was saying here, I mean, it's going to be done.
Caller, can I ask you a question?
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. Do you have a viewpoint as to why nothing was ever done on St. Kitts? You have a perspective?
I really, it's difficult. It would be unfair for me to say, to give a reason. I really don't know. Maybe somebody else can.
But you agree that both Nivisions and Kittitians perished that day.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I do not understand, and I've been struggling myself to seek to understand why it has always been seen as a Nivision thing, a Nivision tragedy.
Well, exactly. Because I could remember, you know, my sister, a friend of mine, Loretta Claxton, I think that was her name, very good friend of mine, was going to Nevis. And she passed by my house, Mr. Bradley, and asked permission from my mother to allow my sister to go. And my sister said, "You're not going anywhere." I was home, "You're not going anywhere." I normally the one who would always ask, "Oh, my leg gone out," but this time for some strange reason, Mr. Bradley, I ain't said nothing. Had my sister gone, she'd have been dead.
Goodness
because
gracious.
she can't swim. I am saying it's time. We must not allow next August, God's willing, come before a monument is put up. I can't tell you the reason why. I really don't know. But like I said already, we had Labour in power when this happened. We had PAM, I think, went in power when this happened. After it happened, we had Labour for 20. We had Unity for 5. We're going to another 5 again. And something needs to be done. Thank you very much, Mr. Bradley.
Well, thank you for that. I hear the passion in your voice, and I'm very grateful for your comment. Just again, a reminder that tomorrow night we continue our conversation with the people, a town hall series led by the Nevis Island Administration. We will be at the Anglican Church Hall in Charlestown, 7:30 sharp. One and all are invited to be a part of this. And the idea is that the government officials, the government cabinet members will relay information to you, the public, and of course take your questions and comments. We are taking our government to the people. We are inviting our people to come in their own communities and share their views and opinions. And so we look forward, certainly, all the people of Craddock Road, Government Road, the people of Ramsbury, wherever you are there in town, we're asking that you come out and be a part of that town hall meeting tomorrow at 7:30. Conversations with the people. Ladies and gentlemen, this is On the Mark. I'm your host, Mark Brantley. We have about 16 or 17 minutes left. It feels like I've been here for a very long time tonight. We have about 17 minutes left. We're taking your calls on 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. I think we've had some good conversations thus far. We have a few minutes, so if somebody is out there and wants to weigh in on any matter, they are, of course, entitled to do so. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yes, Mr. Brantley,
yes.
You see the difficulty we have with this issue. And I'm wondering if you posing that question, is it going to contribute to the healing and the closure? Because obviously it's just reopening old wounds as to who to blame. You heard Mrs. Henry saying somebody should apologize. We all agree that a monument needs to be erected in St. Kitts, right? Why not let's do that and let it end there? Sometimes, just delving into it further than that causes more pain.
But caller, I hear you. I understand your point of view, but you recognize that there are people who equally have a point of view. It might be different to yours, and I think the pain, the tragedy, the horror, it's all part of the history. That's why I say we don't write our own history. You take slavery, for example. I have seen leaders stand up throughout the world and apologize, even though slavery was abolished, a few centuries ago. I've seen recently, right next door in Antigua, Prime Minister Gaston Brown stand up and apologize to Rastafarians for what they would have endured. So
it's not that I'm saying. Listen, if an apology would solve this, I am all for it.
Well, I don't.
And if I'm not sure who it should come from. Should it come from the current Prime Minister on behalf of Kittitians, as Mrs. Henry said, with her partisan spirit as usual? Should it come from Dr. Douglas as the current leader of the Labour Party? Who should it come from? Because there is a collective guilt to this. Okay? And by the way, Mrs. Henry, she's trying to give me spokesperson job. I'm not a spokesperson for the Labour Party. That's just by the way. But you see what I'm saying. Who should an apology come from? Right? And with regards to reparations, that's opening another huge can of worms. If that could be dealt with, that even tokenism might be good. But as you pointed out, just getting accurate data is going to be difficult. And after all this time has elapsed, getting the proper compensation going to the proper people would be difficult. Okay? But certainly if an apology you think is in order, then it should be given. I have absolutely no problem with that.
Okay, well, as I said, okay.
But to me, that is the least that can happen.
All right, good. I just got a message here. I just want to say good night to Jennifer. She's listening in Connecticut. Good night to you, Jennifer. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, you're on the mark.
Yeah, I'm on the mark. Yes. My thing is this. All of the prime ministers for St. Kitts should apologize. All of them should apologize. All that was involved.
Okay.
Good night.
All right, thank you for that. Let's stick with the telephones. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Good evening, Honorable Premier. How are we doing?
Good evening, I'm fine, thank you.
This is German, the president of the Youth Arms.
How are you, German?
I am doing well.
Congratulations again.
Thank you very much.
And I'm told today is International Youth Day, so congratulations on that as well.
Yes, I'm calling in regards to the International Youth Day and also talk about the importance of the empowerment of our youth. I'm not really the calling type of person, but I'm the talkative type of person. So, as the Youth Arms president, I'm going to be the representative, being the voice for the youth.
Yes.
For the next 3 years, and I just want to wish our youth in our society in Nevis a happy Youth Day. And of course, over the next 2 years, I am looking forward to working with our youth and empowering them and making sure that all of us as youth are an asset to our society. As you know, in this day and age, us as youth always make some choices that not necessarily always bring us up, but sometimes bring us down. But the encouragement and then the unified union of the togetherness will all make us, all of us, strong.
Well, my
so
brother,
I just want to take this moment and wish our youth a happy Youth Day, and look forward to working with our youth to make sure that the upward movement of our youth, because remember, at the end of the day, the youth of today are the adults of tomorrow, and once the foundation has been set, then it's always a strong building there afterwards.
Good. Well, excellent. Well put. I'm sure that will be the first of many speeches on the mark. So thank you very much, Jermaine, and congratulations to you and your entire executive.
Yes, I just want to also thank my executive, Zidane Wilkin, the Vice President, and Catherine Seabrooks, the Secretary, the Public Relations Officer, Nikisha Henry, and also the Treasurer, Christopher Clark. Looking forward to make sure our team is as cohesive as possible to make it a stronger and better youth of Nevis.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Jermaine. Thank you so much. Truly appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you in the fullness of time. I think we have much to discuss, and we certainly look forward to engaging.
One of these days I'll come and sit down in the studio with you and lay out our plans on what we have. We have a fun and exciting way to unfold some of the issues that we are facing as youth in our society. And so one of these days, me and the executive team will come on in and sit down and just have a good discussion about the youth. and empowering the youth.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Today is International Youth Day, and there we have the president of the newly formed CCM Youth Arm, Mr. Jermaine Atherton, calling to give his view and to say, of course, greetings to all the youth of Nevis and St. Kitts. Thank you very much, Jermaine. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yes, good evening.
Yes, good evening to you.
I want to agree with the caller before this one. That, yes, the idea of the monument, something that they have to realize, though, that have happened in Nevis. The two monuments that are dedicated to those who perished in the disaster, it also includes the Kittitians as well, the St. Kitts people. In Nevis, the one down at Hunkins Drive and over in the cemetery as well. So everybody was included in one. So it wasn't there wasn't any separation. Maybe there was a lack of information at the time, but it seems to encompass everybody. So I could see why the Kittitians would want to have their own monument, but it would be the same. It would be a duplicate of what we have.
Well, I understand that, but for example, if you go across the United States of America, you have monuments all across the South which speak to the Civil War. You have monuments all across the North which speak to various things.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with duplication if in fact it is something that is important in the tapestry or the history of the country. The problem with the Christina disaster, as I've said repeatedly, it has always been seen as a Nevisian tragedy. And as a consequence, the people on St. Kitts, the governments on St. Kitts, the administrations on St. Kitts, they have not ever seen it fit to even have a service in St. Kitts to commemorate those who perished.
Okay,
and so what we have sought to do this year is to awaken the consciousness of our entire nation that this issue is a critical issue on a national level, and it is not just an island issue for Nevis. So yes, Nevis has two monuments, both bearing all the names that we are aware of, but that doesn't at all prevent St. Kitts from doing the same. We have monuments in Nevis. We have a bust of Sim Daniel, Sir Simeon in the heart of Charlestown, and we have a statue of the same Sir Simeon at Heroes Park in St. Kitts. So there's nothing wrong with duplication. It shows the importance of an event, and I think that this particular event, people say, for example, Christina led to NRP, and that's a Nevis thing, but it was NRP that led to a PAM NRP government. It was NRP why PAM and NRP could have led us into independence.
I agree with you.
So you see how I'm saying that to say that out of Christina came NRP, out of NRP came independence, out of NRP came our first Prime Minister in Dr. Simmons. Let us not forget our history, and the people of Nevis must never shy away, must never feel that they have not contributed enough, because the critical events that have shaped this country have in large measure been contributed to by the people of Nevis and the life and times of this little island. And so we are part of the tapestry, and this event is part of that historical tapestry of our country, which has to be remembered.
But what I'm about to say is that, so why not can it be shared? Because it's seeming like it's not shared.
When you say not shared, what do you mean?
Those who would have called in, and the callers before, yes, of course, yes, they think it's deserve to have their own monument towards that. But I don't see why. It seems to be a difficult problem for some who are thinking that, oh, well, how come they have theirs and we don't have none?
Well, I don't think that is what people are saying. People are saying, not in a kind of, well, you have one and I don't have one. They're saying, why doesn't one exist as well? Because if an event is important enough, I use the example of Sir Simeon. He's in a towering national figure. There's a monument to him, a bust in Nevis, and a statue in St. Kitts.
Yes.
Right? So there is nothing wrong with recognizing his contribution both places equally. There's nothing wrong with recognizing the tragic nature of Christina and the impact it had on the country, not just on Nevis, on the country. But you say the Christina disaster underscores what has bedeviled us all of our lives as Kittitians and Nevisians. That our thinking is island in nature, not national, not country. And that is why just the other day I had to say in a very forceful way that any boy or girl in Nevis can aspire to be what they want, including Prime Minister, including Governor General, including whoever and whatever.
Sure.
Because there's a perception that is out there. And the Christina is part of that. It comes out of that. That listen, if it ain't happening on my island, it ain't affecting me. Because people don't see it as one country. And that what happens in any part of the country affects all of us. So sometimes you hear, for example, oh, somebody got killed. Oh, what happened? Nevis or St. Kitts? That's the first question. As if it happened in Nevis, it don't matter to those on St. Kitts and vice versa. We need to get past that. And I don't know how we do it. But I certainly am on the stage for a limited time in a leadership position. And I will continue to talk about it. The Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis must see himself as such.
I do humbly agree with you.
What?
I humbly agree with you because there was a time when there seemed to be, that would have been few years back, when we were looking at crime rates, for example, in St. Kitts and Nevis, and there seemed to be a competition.
Sure.
Because we wanted to point out exactly how much in Nevis, how much in St. Kitts. And people were doing that, I don't know, willingly or unwillingly, but I thought it was funny to me. I mean, well, it was disgraceful in the first place.
All right. Well, caller, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much.
Yes, you're welcome.
Okay, all right. Session tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, we have about 3 minutes left. We can perhaps accommodate one final call, 869-469-1616, 869-469-1700. If you want to get in a few words and end the show, that's your opportunity. And I know that some people have messaged me to say they were trying to get in. Tonight seems to be one of them nights when we need an extra 2 hours because people have been calling in and people are anxious to be a part of the show. But it has been a good show. As I said, we have a narrow window. If somebody wants to call in and make a quick point, they can, and we will accommodate them. Just as we are closing out, to remind the general public once again that conversation with the people continue tomorrow. A town hall series by the Nevis Island Administration. It continues at 7:30 p.m. at the St. Paul's Anglican Church Hall in Charlestown. And so we are asking one and all to come out at 7:30 and be a part of that conversation. I think the conversations thus far have gone well. We had a criticism in Bath that we were taking up a bit too much time, so we will adjust that to give more time for audience interaction. And we are government that listens. We are people that listen. That is very important to us. And on these occasions, we want to hear from you. And so that person who remonstrated with us in Bath, I think that we have heard, and we will try our best to comply in terms of making the presentation shorter. But we are hoping that people will come forth and be a part of that discussion, certainly tomorrow evening at 7:30 at the St. Paul's Anglican Church Hall. Also, I'm reminding one and all that the taxi and tour operators training at the Ministry of Tourism starts on Monday. For those who are interested, we are asking you to please be a part of that. But that's the way you get licensed to be a taxi operator, tour operator. And so we ask you to go out and be a part of that as well. Okay, I hear the band striking up. That means we have to go. It's 10 o'clock. I want to thank one and all the wonderful people who called. Those who couldn't get in, I apologize to you. Please, next week, God's willing, we hope to be here. And you can call in then. Also to indicate that this show is rebroadcast tomorrow at 1 p.m. For those who are listening in Connecticut, in Villa Rica, in Atlanta, and all over Florida, New York, all over St. Martin, all over the VI, Virgin Islands, British and US, I want to say, for those of family and friends on St. Kitts, those here in Nevis, it was an absolute pleasure being here with you tonight. Good night, God bless you, and may you have a wonderful rest tonight. That's our show. The show is rebroadcast at 1 p.m. Tune in then. Bye-bye.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the